All right. Now, I've had a lot of people telling me that they don't see nowhere in the Bible that Jesus commanded anybody to keep the Sabbath. Um, if you guys pay attention, right, do you notice that the Sabbath is the only commandment that 90% of the world don't want to keep? For some reason, they believe that they were not commanded. I'm talking about the Christians. I should say, the majority of them believe that they were not commanded to keep the Sabbath. But it's funny, they were commanded to keep the rest commandments. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not lie, steal, fornicate, commit adultery, covet, and disrespect your mother and father, and and the whole nine yard. But only when it comes to remember the Sabbath day, to keep it holy, they were not commanded to do so. And as I was doing some Bible studies, this came to to my interest. Now it's funny, I've been reading that book for years, the book of Matthew. I have never seen it that way. That's why it's good for you to read your Bible over and over and over again, yeah? Now, I am going to read the book of Matthew chapter 24 to show you guys that the Sabbath Jesus made mention. He didn't directly say it to keep it, but those who have understanding, who can read, I'm going to read it, and then you can read it for yourself. You are going to see that Jesus is basically telling you that the Sabbath is still in existence. Now let's start. Matthew chapter 24, beginning at verse. It says, "And Jesus went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him for to show him the building of the temple. And Jesus said unto them, See ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world?" Now that says it all, people. Even if you can, look, me no know how to say how to put it more clearly, right? The disciple asks thee, What shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? That is proof that they were talking about the future, the things in the future that ought to come, that not come yet. So the whole question that the disciple asked you, and the answer that Jesus could give them, simply tell you that this is what you expect. This is what should be expected to happen before the second coming of Jesus Christ. Now let's go to verse 4. Jesus tell them, "And Jesus answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you." Now this is how he start now. He start by telling them, be careful so that nobody try to deceive you, because he know a lot of deception is going to take place before he comes. Now verse 5. "For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive you. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye not be troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet." So all this war in Ukraine and Israel and them someday, Jesus says, hey, you're going to see them someday. But do not be troubled, because guess what? All them someday, they have to come to pass before, but the end is not yet. So even if you see nation rise against nation, even you see world war, even you see civil war, even you see them someday, Jesus say all them someday have to come to pass, but the end not gonna come yet. You know why? Because guess what? More things need to happen before he comes. That is not all that need to happen. They have some more serious things there to happen before he comes. So all when you see them someday take place, don't worry about that, because the time not reach yet. I don't understand how as soon as a war start, people say Jesus will come soon, as if tomorrow. Some people will tell you, some Christian will tell you, hey, Jesus can come anytime. He can come right now. And I'm like, no, he's not coming right now, because the Bible gives you specific warnings and time frame to watch out for before he comes. And I reached that point there yet. Right? So he far from coming. You see, when they don't read the Bible and study the Bible, right? So, and I always encourage every Christian, read your Bible and stop make people deceive you. Okay? Now, verse 6 says, and no, I'm done with verse 6. Verse 7, for nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. This is still happening. But Jesus said the end is not yet. Now, verse 8, he says, all these are the beginning of sorrows. So when they think it will end, for you problem just start. When them some they start to take place frequently and people think, oh Lord, gotta come. What they're not paying attention to is that Jesus told them, when you begin to see these things happening, that is just the beginning. Because you don't see nothing yet. And then verse 9 says, then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of many nations for my name's sake. That it doesn't start, but it's gonna happen more frequently when the mark of the beast comes. More people are going to be killed for Jesus Christ. When I mean kill, I'm talking about brutally murdered. They will be slaughtered. Look, God's people right before he comes, right, are going to be slaughtered, right? So much, right, that you go swear I want slaughterhouse where butcher or slaughter pigs and cattle. That is the bloody scene you go witness right before Jesus comes. Some people say no, but we shall see. Verse 10, and then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. And many false prophets shall rise, and shall deceive many. Trust me, a lot of them right now deceiving the churches and them all over the world. And I need the churches in Antigua and Barbuda to wake up from the deception, because many of you have been deceived for all those years. Wake up. Verse 12 says, and because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. Even today we see this, it still happen, and it's happening more frequent the closer we get to the coming of Jesus Christ, and the more hatred and selfishness you can find in a man's heart. Verse 13 says, but he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. That means you have to endure no matter what happens. You have to hold on to the faith and keep the commandment of God, regardless to what moves you, to what shake you. Don't let go of the faith. And do not let go of the 10 commandments. That's basically what you mean now. Now I'm going to show you something very interesting. Now let's continue. Verse 14, it says, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. Now what I'm saying there is that the Sabbath, which 99% of the world refuse, it's going to be part of the gospel that shall be preached in all the world for a witness. Right? The Sabbath has never been nailed to the cross, and it has never been done away with, and it is still here in existence. And then further down, I'm going to show you how Jesus make it plain that despite all the tribulation that you'll be going through before I come, pray that your flight is not in the Sabbath or the winter. So therefore, Jesus I try to say, until I come, don't forget to keep my Sabbath. I'm going to prove it. Now let's go to verse 15. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. In order for you to understand that, you have to go to the book of Daniel. I don't remember which part in Daniel, but the book of Daniel and also the book of Thessalonians speak about it, the man of sin, the man of perdition. Now, verse 16, Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house, neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. And woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. But pray ye that your flight be not in the winter, and neither on the Sabbath day. Wow. And it goes and say, For then shall be great tribulation. Now, that is the great tribulation that not come yet, that is coming. That tribulation will usher in the second coming of Jesus Christ at the end of the tribulation. Right? Let me read it again, verse 21. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved, but for the elect's sake those days shall be shortened. Now this says it all now. Verse 20 now. But pray ye that your flight be not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day. Now why would Jesus say that? Now you have to understand the book of Matthew 24, what I just read. There is now, if you go back, this is what I want people to pay attention to, for those who say that the Sabbath is not important. If you go back to Matthew chapter 24, verse 3, it says, And as he sat upon the Mount Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us when shall these things be, and what shall be the sign of thy coming, and of the end of the world? Now verse 20 says, But pray ye that your flight be not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day. Now when Jesus said that, Jesus was not talking about the past, he was talking about the future. Because the question the disciple asked him is that, I'm going to put them in a dialect. Tell her what going to happen, and I want to know the signs, what to watch out for, what to look out for, right? And of the end of the world, when you're going to come. Jesus tell them so many things, but verse 20, Jesus tell them, make sure whatever you do, you not have to travel in the winter or have to travel on the Sabbath day. Now, if the Sabbath was not important, if it was nailed to the cross, if it was a done away with commandment, why would Jesus say, make sure you not travel in the winter and on the Sabbath day? Right? Make sure your flight is not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day, before I come. Right there when Jesus said that, Jesus is plainly coming out indirectly, telling them, before I come, regardless of the tribulation, regardless of the fact that you have to run, regardless of the fact that you will be killed, if you read before that, it tell you all them someday. Right? Because verse 9 says, Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. You understand me? And the other part that speak about the tribulation. Which verse that speak about the tribulation again? Yeah, he also tell you, okay, verse 21, it says, For then shall be great tribulation, right? So that time, when that time comes, is going to be the tribulation period of the murdering of the saints, right? That is the tribulation of the mark of the beast, and then it's going to be the 7 last plague as the punishment. If you read Revelation, you will see the 7 last plague there. Jesus is telling them, despite all that, regardless what you go through, make sure you don't travel on my Sabbath day, and make sure your flight is not in the winter. That's basically what Jesus will tell them. So if the Sabbath was not important to keep, why would Jesus tell his disciples, these are the things you must watch out for, and these are the things that you must do when you see the sign of my coming, right before I come to the end of the world? You have to watch out for this, be careful for that, make sure nobody deceive you. And then he go and say, do not travel in the winter and not travel upon the Sabbath day. So what they have to tell you about the Sabbath day? If Jesus tell you, do not travel on my day, on the Sabbath day, right? You understand me? Jesus made it plain. Matthew chapter 24 verse 20. But pray ye that your flight be not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day. Verse 21. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. And verse 22 he says, and except those days should be shortened. So what Jesus tries, right? If me not come for put an end to this tribulation, yeah, nobody will remain alive. But because of the elect, because of those who love me and keep my commandment, I'm gonna come and put an end to the tribulation. just for them alone, just for them sake. I'm gonna come, I'm gonna end up. I don't understand why people still being a hypocrite and a beat on the bush and a beat on the bush. You understand me? And in verse 30, Jesus says, "And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn. And they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angel with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other." So after all that, then Jesus will come. But before he comes, he tell you, make sure you're not traveling in the winter and on the Sabbath day. So what does that have to tell you about the Sabbath commandment? Was it nailed to the cross, or is it still there and we need to keep it until the second coming of Jesus Christ? Let us not be a hypocrite. The truth is right there. Jesus is waking up the church, the sleeping church, the spiritually blind church. Wake up. God is using his people to wake you up. Keep God's Sabbath day holy and stop your hypocrisy and stiff-neckedness, because y'all are going to burn in hell for deliberately breaking of the commandment of God, knowing well you're not supposed to do it, but you also want to live in denial and lie to yourself. Y'all want to get rid of the commandment of God. God never changed. His laws can't change. So keep the commandment of God. This is your final warning. Sunday churches who don't believe in keeping the Sabbath but want to keep it on Sunday, Sunday is not the Bible Sabbath. Stop the hypocrisy and keep the 7th-day Saturday Sabbath and keep the Sabbath day holy. This is your final warning. Have a good day and God bless.